Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes you are so busy trying to be accepted by the world that you forget who you are. You run after dreams that are not even yours. You chase people who do not care, and you try to prove your worth in rooms that have already decided you are not enough. But let me tell you something, life is not a second-hand gift. You do not get a second round. This is it. One life, one chance. So what are you doing with it? You only get one life. Stop living like you have unlimited time. This truth sounds obvious, but most people live like they are going to get a second chance at youth, at energy, at time. They postpone happiness, they delay hard decisions, they wait for clarity, for courage, for some magic push that never really comes. And days turn into weeks, weeks into months, and suddenly years are gone, and they never truly lived. They existed, they functioned, but they did not live. The problem is, we assume tomorrow will be there. We think we can say I love you later, we can fix things next month, we can start that dream next year. But what if tomorrow never comes? What if today was the only day you truly had? Would you still be doing what you are doing right now? People waste years in jobs they hate, in relationships that suffocate them, in cities that drain their soul, all because they are afraid. Afraid to change, afraid to start over, afraid to disappoint others. But in trying to keep everyone else happy, they quietly bury their own joy. That is how life is wasted, not in one big mistake, but in 1,000 small choices to settle. You get one chance to be you, the real you. Not the version people expect, not the version that plays safe, but the one that burns with passion and moves with meaning. And yet, you keep that version locked inside because someone once said your dream was too big or unrealistic, so you stopped dreaming. And that is the real loss, not the failure, but the surrender. Living your life fully does not mean being reckless. It means being honest, honest about what you want, honest about who you are, honest about what makes you feel alive. If you are doing something just because others are doing it, stop. That is not life, that is imitation. You were not born to copy someone else's journey. You were born to carve your own. So stop scrolling endlessly to escape your reality. Stop numbing your pain instead of healing it. Stop pretending you are fine when your soul is screaming for more. You owe yourself a life that feels right, not one that just looks right. And you do not need to know the whole path to begin. You just need to take the next right step, speak up, apply for that thing, say yes to the risk, say no to what drains you. You are not stuck, you are just scared, and that is okay. But do not let fear be the reason you look back and wish you had tried. Time is not waiting for you. It does not care about your excuses. It does not pause because you are confused. It moves every single day, so move with it. Make decisions, even the small ones matter. They shape your life more than you think. Because someday, someone will ask you what you did with your life, and I hope your answer is not, I waited. I hope you can say, I lived, I tried, I felt, I failed, I grew, and I did not waste it. Waiting for the right time is the fastest way to waste your life. That idea of a perfect moment arriving, where everything will finally align, where you will feel brave, ready, and fully prepared, it does not exist. It is a lie we tell ourselves to avoid discomfort. It is a cushion for fear, not a strategy for growth. People spend years telling themselves, not now, maybe later, but later becomes never, and all that potential, all that energy, just sits there and dies quietly inside them. The right time is not a calendar event. It is not some magical moment when you suddenly feel fearless. Most of the time, when you begin anything worth doing, you will still feel unsure, messy, unprepared. And that is not a sign to stop. That is a sign that you are growing. Growth never comes with clarity first. Clarity comes after movement, not before it. You do not wait for confidence to begin. You build confidence by beginning. When you wait for the perfect moment, you hand over control of your life to circumstances. You say, I will only live when life gives me permission, but life does not give permission. It gives opportunities, and those opportunities do not always come looking perfect. Sometimes they come in chaos, in pain, in sudden detours, and if you are only looking for a golden door labeled now it's safe, you will miss every single open window life sends your way. Think about how many people wait. They wait until the kids grow up. They wait until they feel financially secure. They wait until the fear goes away, but life is not a rehearsal. There is no guaranteed encore. The waiting becomes a habit, a pattern. You get good at postponing, and that habit slowly eats away at the fire inside you. You forget you ever wanted more. You start to believe this numbness is just how adulthood feels. The truth is, no one ever really feels ready. Even the people who look like they have it all together are figuring it out as they go. Everyone is scared. Everyone is unsure. The only difference is, some people act anyway. They jump before they feel brave. They say yes while their voice still shakes. They know the clock is ticking, and they are not willing to waste time trying to control every outcome. There will always be a reason not to, always. You can always find one more thing to fix, one more thing to learn, one more sign to wait for. And you will keep finding those reasons until you realize that they are just excuses dressed up in logic. You do not need a perfect plan. You need a little courage and a lot of honesty. If something matters to you, start walking toward it. Stumble if you have to, whisper if you cannot shout, but move, because motion creates momentum and momentum creates change. Sitting still creates nothing. No matter how smart your plans are, they will not replace action. Action is what changes your life, not intention. People talk about timing like it is a spiritual event, but timing is not something that finds you, it is something you make. You create timing by doing, by choosing, by stepping into the unknown and trusting that you will figure it out along the way. Waiting robs you of that trust. It feeds the lie that your life is later, not now, but your life is always now. Not next year, not when it is easier, not when someone else finally believes in you. Right now, as it is. Messy, imperfect, scary, but still yours. Regret hurts more than failure ever will. That is something most people do not realize until it is too late. Failure is sharp, yes. It stings, it bruises the ego, it knocks the wind out of you. But it also teaches, refines, humbles. Failure is loud in the moment, but it fades. Regret, on the other hand, is quiet. It sits in your heart like a stone. It lingers in your mind at night. It whispers what could have been, and the worst part, there is nothing to learn from it because you never even tried. You do not get the lesson, just the loss. People avoid failure because they are afraid of being seen as weak, of being judged, of not living up to some imaginary standard. So they stay in their comfort zone, they play small, they choose silence over expression, safety over risk, routine over passion. And they call it being smart. They convince themselves that they are just being realistic. But years later, they look back and realize the only thing they protected was their fear. Not their potential, not their joy. When you fail, at least you know. You know you had the courage to show up. You know you gave it something. You stood in the arena. You learned where you need to grow. But when you live on the sidelines, when you bury your dreams under excuses, when you silence your voice to please others, you get nothing but a life you never chose. And that ache, that constant ache of wondering what could have been, is heavier than any failure could ever be. There are people who would rather live with a hollow life than risk breaking it, but the truth is, life is already fragile. Whether you try or not, pain will come. Disappointment will find you, so why not fail trying? Why not break while chasing something beautiful? At least then the pain has purpose. At least then you are writing a story you can be proud of. even if it is messy, even if it does not end the way you hoped. Regret has a way of showing up at the quietest moments. It is in the look on someone's face when they talk about a dream they never followed. It is in the sigh after a long day in a job they hate. It is in the way they scroll through someone else's life and wonder, what if that had been me? And that question, that what if, becomes a shadow they carry everywhere. You cannot outrun it. You can only face it by choosing not to feed it. Failure might hurt your pride. Regret eats your soul. One is temporary. The other rewrites your entire life narrative. And the saddest part is that most regret comes not from things that went wrong, but from things that never happened. The words unsaid, the love never expressed, the talent never used, the trip never taken, the apology never made. Not because it was impossible, but because someone thought they had more time, or they thought they needed permission. You do not need a guarantee to begin. You do not need a map to start walking. You just need to decide that the risk of failing is worth more than the pain of wondering. The people who build extraordinary lives are not fearless. They are just not willing to live with the silence of regret. They fall, they lose, they cry, but they also laugh louder, love deeper, and carry stories of courage instead of stories of hesitation. Regret waits quietly. It waits for you to stall, to delay, to choose safety over meaning, and then it stays. It makes a home in the parts of you that were meant to grow. It dulls your spark, but you were never meant to live like that. You were meant to try, even when it scared you. You were meant to speak, even when your voice trembled. Because at least then, you would know you lived. You would know you did not waste the one chance you had. Approval is a prison. Set yourself free. From the very beginning, you are taught to fit in, be polite. Be likable, do not make too much noise, do not be too much of anything. And slowly, without realizing it, your entire identity begins to shape around what other people expect of you. You start measuring your worth by their reactions. Their praise becomes your fuel. Their silence becomes your fear. And somewhere along the way, you stop living for yourself. You dress for them, you speak for them, you post for them. You hold back your opinions, your dreams, your weirdness, all because you are afraid it might not be accepted. You shrink parts of yourself to keep the peace. You filter your truth so it does not make others uncomfortable. But the more you do that, the more disconnected you feel from joy, from purpose, from your own voice. The need for approval is subtle but powerful. It makes you doubt your own instincts. It makes you abandon paths that feel right, simply because someone raised an eyebrow. It makes you chase applause in rooms that will never truly see you, and even when you get it, the compliment, the nod, the like, it does not last. It feels good for a second, but then you are right back where you started, needing more to feel okay again. That is how the prison works. It feeds you crumbs and convinces you they are a feast. There is nothing wrong with wanting connection. Humans are wired for belonging, but there is a difference between connection and dependence. When your identity depends on being liked, you lose the ability to be honest. You stop taking risks. You stop dreaming out loud. You become whatever the moment requires instead of who you truly are. And slowly, the real you fades. Some of the most creative, powerful, brilliant people have lived trapped in fear of what others would say. So their songs were never written, their ideas stayed in notebooks, their voices stayed quiet, because someone once told them they were too loud, too different, too much. But too much for who? Who decides the standard? Who gave them the authority to tell you what is enough? When you live for approval, your life becomes a performance. Every move rehearsed, every word calculated, every mistake magnified, and you are constantly tired because you are constantly pretending. But the truth is, no matter how hard you try, not everyone will like you. Not everyone will understand you, and that is not a problem, that is freedom. Because once you stop trying to please everyone, You start discovering who actually loves the real you, not the filtered version, not the edited version, but the messy, raw, whole version. Freedom begins the moment you stop waiting for applause, when you start doing things that matter to you, not just things that get approval. When you choose peace over popularity, when you speak the truth even if your voice shakes, that is when you reclaim your power. That is when you start creating a life that feels like your own. There will always be people who misunderstand you, people who judge you without knowing your story. Let them. Their opinion is not your responsibility. You are not here to decorate their world. You are here to build your own, and you cannot build anything meaningful while walking on eggshells. You cannot grow while constantly bending to fit someone else's mold. So stop waiting for a permission slip to live your life. Stop apologizing for your joy, your passion, your ambition. You were not put on this earth to be liked. You were put here to live fully, speak boldly, and love deeply. Approval will keep you small, it will keep you safe, but it will also keep you silent. And silence is not your truth. You were not meant to live inside that cage. You were meant to fly. Your life does not need to look like anyone else's. It is strange how often people forget that. From the moment you are old enough to walk, you are placed on a track. Study this, become that, buy this, look like them. Follow the same blueprint that worked for someone else and hope it works for you too. But that is not life. That is a copy-paste routine. It is a borrowed dream, not a lived one. Comparison is a thief dressed in shiny clothes. It does not just steal your happiness, it steals your clarity. You start questioning your choices just because someone else is doing it differently. You see someone your age achieving something, and suddenly you feel behind. But behind what? Behind who? Life is not a race, and you are not late. You are on your own timeline, and that is exactly where you are supposed to be. Social media has made this worse. You see curated versions of people's lives and convince yourself that you are missing something. You start measuring your journey against their highlight reels, but you do not see their failures. You do not see the nights they cried, the doubts they carry, the parts they do not post. You only see the perfect lighting, and you forget that your path is not supposed to look like theirs. Some people bloom early, some bloom late, some never bloom in public at all. They find their joy in quiet corners, in lives that no one applauds but feel deeply right. And that is okay. Success does not have a single definition. For some, it is building an empire. For others, it is reading books in peace. For some, it is traveling the world. For others, it is staying close to home and raising a family. You are allowed to define your own version of joy. Trying to force your life into someone else's shape will only break you. You are not them. You do not have their story, their wounds, their gifts, or their purpose. And if you keep chasing their dreams, you will end up abandoning your own. That is why so many people feel lost. They are living lives that look good on the outside, but feel hollow inside. They chose what was expected, not what was true. You do not owe the world a life that makes sense to everyone. You owe yourself a life that feels real. You owe yourself mornings that you look forward to, not ones you dread. You owe yourself relationships that see you, not ones that demand performance. And that kind of life can only happen when you stop asking for directions from people who are not even going where you want to go. There will be pressure from family, from friends, from strangers. Everyone will have an opinion. They will tell you to be more realistic, to stop dreaming, to choose safety. But safety is not always peace. Sometimes it is just quiet misery, and you were not meant to settle for that. You were meant to explore, to question, to discover, not just the world, but yourself. Sometimes choosing your own path will make you feel alone. But that silence is sacred. It is where you meet yourself. It is where you hear your own voice again after years of following noise. And that voice matters. It may not be loud, but it is honest. It knows what lights you up, what breaks you, what heals you. Listen to it, let it guide you, even if no one claps, even if no one understands. You are not behind. You are not lost, you are just walking a road that no one else has walked before, and that is not a mistake. That is the point. Your life is not a template. It is a canvas. Stop trying to paint someone else's picture on it. Pick your own colors, use your own brush, make it yours. Fear of judgment is not a reason to stay stuck, yet it is one of the most common reasons people never become who they were meant to be. The idea that someone might laugh, disagree, criticize, or misunderstand you becomes so paralyzing that you choose silence over expression. You choose hiding over showing up. You stay small not because you lack ability, but because you believe your worth is fragile and someone's opinion can break it. Most people do not realize how many of their decisions are shaped by imaginary conversations. You want to do something, and instantly your mind plays a movie of how others might react. You picture the worst case scenario, the judgmental stares, the whispers, the rejection, and before anything even happens, you give up. Not because you failed, but because you assumed someone would not approve. That is how fear wins, without even trying. But here is the truth no one talks about. People are always going to have opinions. Whether you speak or stay quiet, chase your dream or ignore it, live boldly or play it safe, someone will always have something to say. And most of the time, it has nothing to do with you. It is their own fear, insecurity, or jealousy dressed up as advice. You cannot control that. What you can control is whether you let their noise mute your truth. When you fear judgment, you hand over the pen of your story to strangers. You let them edit your dreams. You let them cross out your voice, and often you do this before anyone even says a word. You assume rejection before trying, you predict failure before beginning, but no one sees your inner world the way you do. No one feels your calling the way you feel it, and that calling deserves more than silence. Judgment is loud, but it is also short-lived. People talk and then they move on. You are not the center of their world, even if your fears make it feel that way. That post you are afraid to share, that path you are afraid to take. Yes, some people might judge, but they will forget by next week. Meanwhile, you are still sitting with a dream you buried just to avoid a 5-second opinion. The cost of avoiding judgment is too high. You lose time, you lose opportunities, you lose parts of yourself that wanted to grow, explore, and be seen. You live a filtered version of your life, hoping it will protect you from discomfort, but it does not. It just adds regret to the mix, because one day you will realize you spent years dimming your light just so it would not bother anyone. There is freedom in realizing that people's opinions do not define you, that their approval is not required, that you are allowed to change, to speak, to fail, to rise again, all without their permission. You do not need everyone to get it. You just need to get it. You need to believe in the value of your own voice more than you fear someone else's disapproval. Courage does not mean you are not afraid. It means you choose to move anyway. You say the thing anyway. You show up anyway, even if your hands shake, even if your voice breaks. That is how you grow. That is how you reclaim your life from the fear of what they might think. Because the truth is, they are not thinking about you as much as you think they are. They are too busy fearing their own judgment, stuck in their own cages, waiting for someone else to go first. When you stop fearing judgment, you start living from the inside out instead of outside in. You stop performing and start being. You stop hiding and start healing. You start becoming who you actually are, not who you were trained to be. And in that process, you realize the world does not need another version of perfect. It needs more people who are real. Time is your most expensive currency. Spend it with purpose. You can always earn more money, build more networks, gain more experience, but you can never get back time once it is spent. Every day you wake up, you are spending a piece of your life, whether you are aware of it or not. And the terrifying part is, most people do not even know where their time is going. They give it away like it is nothing, to distractions, to meaningless conversations, to habits that drain them. And then they wonder why they feel empty. You are not just filling hours on a clock, you are building your story. Every hour you spend is a brick in the foundation of your life. And the structure you are creating, is it strong, is it honest, is it beautiful, or is it hollow? That depends entirely on what you do with the time you are given. You do not have to be busy to have purpose. But you do have to be intentional. Busyness and purpose are not the same thing. One drains you, the other drives you. Some people waste years trying to impress the wrong people, staying in the wrong relationships, chasing things that never truly mattered to them. They think they have time. They assume there is more later. But life does not come with a pause button. You do not get to rewind. You only get to choose how you live now. And if you do not choose deliberately, the world will choose for you. It will fill your schedule with things that look urgent but mean nothing. When you spend your time without thinking, you live on autopilot. You wake up, scroll, work, complain, sleep, and then repeat, but nothing changes. You are not growing. You are not becoming, you are just existing, and existence without direction eventually becomes exhaustion. Purpose is not some grand moment that arrives one day. It is something you build with small decisions every day. It is in what you say yes to, it is also in what you say no to. Time is not just about productivity. It is about meaning. It is not just about getting things done. It is about doing the right things. You can have a full calendar and still have an empty life. You can check every box and still feel unfulfilled, because it is not about how much you do. It is about what you are doing and why. Ask yourself, is this building the kind of life I want to look back on, or is this just noise? People often say they do not have time, but time is not hiding. It is being used, and most of the time it is being used on things that do not matter. You say yes to things out of guilt. You say no to rest because you think slowing down means losing. You scroll for hours and then say you are too tired to create. You watch others live boldly and then wonder why you feel behind. But the truth is, every decision is a choice. And every choice writes your future. Being intentional with your time is not about being perfect. It is about being honest. Honest about what matters. Honest about where your energy belongs. Honest about what you need to stop entertaining. The people you spend time with, the content you consume, the routines you repeat, they are shaping you. They are shaping your thoughts, your emotions, your identity. And if you are not paying attention, they will shape you into someone you never meant to become. You do not owe your time to everyone. You do not have to answer every message, attend every event, fix every problem. Guard your time the way you would guard your peace, because time is not just a resource. It is your life in motion. And one day you will look back and realize that how you used your time was how you lived your life. Healing begins when you stop pretending to be fine. The moment you let go of the mask, the moment you stop forcing smiles and saying I'm okay. When you are not, that is the moment your healing begins. Not when everything is fixed, not when all the pain is gone, but when you are honest about where you actually are. Pretending delays healing. Denial buries wounds, and buried wounds do not disappear, they rot from within. There is so much pressure to be strong, to keep going, to push through. You are told that vulnerability is weakness, that emotions are a distraction, that sadness is something to hide. So you become a master of performance. You become good at hiding the cracks, at holding back tears, at pretending that nothing touches you. And for a while it works, but inside you feel the weight piling up. You carry it in your body, in your mind, in your silence. Healing is not about being unbreakable. It is about learning to rebuild. and you cannot rebuild something you are not willing to look at. You cannot repair pain you will not name. You cannot find peace by pretending the storm never came. Pain demands to be witnessed, not indulged, not dramatized, just seen, acknowledged, felt, and that takes courage. It takes more courage to say I'm not okay than to act like everything is fine. People are often scared to be real because they are afraid of being judged, of being misunderstood, of being abandoned. But hiding your pain does not protect you from judgment. It isolates you from connection. It builds walls where you need bridges. Because the truth is, everyone is struggling with something. Everyone has chapters they do not talk about. And when you share your truth, you give others permission to do the same. That is how healing spreads. Through honesty, through presence, through shared humanity. There is no timeline for healing. Some days you will feel strong. Other days you will feel like you are falling apart all over again. That is normal. Healing is not linear. It is messy and unpredictable, but every step counts, even the slow ones, even the ones where all you did was get out of bed and breathe. Healing is not about becoming who you were before the pain. It is about becoming someone new because of it. Someone softer, someone wiser, someone more alive. You do not have to have all the answers to begin healing. You do not need a 10-step plan. You just need to stop lying to yourself. Stop telling yourself that your pain does not matter. Stop pretending that what hurt you is behind you if it still lives in your heart. That honesty is the first act of self-respect. The first act of love, not for others but for yourself. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is sit with your pain without trying to fix it. Just sit, listen, feel, because sometimes pain just needs your presence, not your solutions. And when you stop fighting it, when you stop covering it up with busyness or distractions, something incredible happens. It starts to loosen its grip. It starts to move through you instead of staying stuck inside you. You do not have to carry it all alone. You are allowed to ask for help. You are allowed to break down. You are allowed to rest. That does not make you weak. It makes you real, and the world needs more real. More people willing to say, I'm hurting, but I'm healing. I'm not there yet, but I'm trying. Because that is where healing begins. In the trying, in the truth, in the quiet decision to show up for yourself, even when no one else sees it. Even when it is hard. Even when all you can do is whisper, this still hurts. That whisper is enough. That whisper is the doorway.